Did you miss us?
Not really.
No, we didn't either, actually. That's okay. For the literally dozens of people, I think it's dozens anyway, who've been waiting for us, thanks for bearing with us. Our long vacations are over, and we're back on the microphone here at KrakCast World Headquarters. I'm here with Josh, and Dr. Mike is not here today. However, we have, how should we say, Josh? The blast from the past, the return of the king. The king is a little much, I think, but
I like the king. I think you subconsciously hit upon exactly what you wanted to describe me as, John.
For those, I don't know, 6 or 7 of you who go back with us long enough to the beginning of the KrakCast, you remember Dave, Irish Dave. Do we have a name for Dublin Dave, or Dave is fine? Okay. Dave is back after he's been walking the earth, finding himself for a bit.
Getting into adventures.
It's a little bit like Pete Best rejoining the Beatles, isn't it?
Yeah, Ringo, get out, and Pete, you're back in. Anyway,
my first words to you on my return be "fuck you."
Dave, welcome back. How does it feel to be back on the couch?
Well, it turns out nobody else wants to listen to me talk about politics on a Sunday afternoon. So, yeah.
Funny how that happens sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, Charlie was like, Dad, you can go back and do your podcast. Right?
Just please get out of the house. Go do something.
Man, I missed the 10 years.
Well, good to have you back. Welcome back.
And all of our listeners.
Exactly.
Oh, right, yeah, I was trying to figure that out.
We could all fit in one room, I think, more or less. Well, let's jump into it. Let's do this first, because we need to talk about this. We need to talk about waffles shaped like genitalia. That's what we need to talk about. A place called the Dickory. Very, very subtle. Now, just quickly, if you're not a native speaker of English, you might not know this, but there's a nursery rhyme. What's the nursery rhyme? Hickory Dickory Dock.
Hickory Dickory Dock.
But what is that called? What's that?
It's called Hickory Dickory Dock.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, the mouse.
Hickory Dickory Dock. The mouse. So when I first heard Dickory, I'm thinking that kind of Dickory. No, that's Dickory, whatever that means. But the Dickory here in Krakow is Dickery. They just opened here on Stratum, literally across the street from KrakCast World Headquarters, after previous successful openings in Warsaw and Wrocław, I think.
Did you just say openings?
See, here we go. It already starts. So here's the deal. They are selling gofry in Polish, just like, waffles, let's call them. But the menu is rather limited, very limited. They have 2 things on the menu, a hero and a shiro. Get it? He and she. Now, the meaning will become very obvious in just a moment.
Where does Ed Sheeran fit into that?
No. Actually, it's a good idea, but no. Hero and shiro. The hero is a penis-shaped waffle. The shiro is a... What's the right word? Vagina opening-shaped? What's the...
Vulva, I believe.
Vulva. Thank you, Dr. Josh. And you can have it dipped in chocolate or various toppings. And, of course, they're on a stick, obviously. And this is how it is. And so there are several angles I want to investigate here, guys. But just as a general thing, what's your first impression about Dickory?
I'm staring at some images here of some suspicious looking white frosting on the headline product, which is sprinkled with some hundreds of thousands in red, which could indicate several things. But look, this is interesting to me. You said something there I really need to clarify.
What?
Is this a shop that's similar to another one in the city, or is it a chain of Dickory's?
Well, it's the third one in the country.
Like, they're all the same owner?
Presumably, they're all called. Yeah, let's go ahead and assume. Yeah, they're all the 3 Dickorys across Poland. Yes,
3 swinging dicks. Okay, yes. Right. So I think this is bizarre. I really do. Who opens a bakery with only 2 products? I mean,
but these are special products.
No, I think they need to expand their offering.
If they're so successful, they're opening the third one. There must be some, encouraging mathematics behind it for the owners, right?
Okay, what is going on here? There's some kind of social message here. I did like the bit in the article where the owner admits that it's really just so people can take pictures of,
Okay, well,
bakery-shaped
let's
dicks.
save that for a second. But here's the thing. If you look at the menu, I think in the article you're looking at, there's a picture of the menu. I saw it. I stopped by there earlier on my way here. There's something, I'm paraphrasing here, there's something to the effect of The reason we use hero and shiro instead of more descriptive terms for what we sell is because of here in our culture in Poland, we have this repressive atmosphere where we don't openly discuss these things. And until such time as we do, we're going to resort to these euphemisms for what we sell. And so they're kind of packaging everything in a social crusade to kind of promote sex education, I suppose.
As my mum would say, it's all really just a load of hooey, isn't it?
Hooey.
Here now, that'd make a hen knife from north side of Dublin blush, that would.
That's saying something.
Okay, so it's about spreading a message of sex education through baked goods.
Well, yeah, and making money, but yeah, that's how they're promoting it. Where there's a social good here.
There's a social good. I'm failing to see the social good.
So am I, but that's what they say.
It's disgusting, I have to say. I mean, the only time I've ever seen dick-shaped confectionaries is amongst the paraphernalia of travelling hen parties. When they've got the dick-shaped everything.
Actually, you can get penis-shaped pasta.
Really?
Yeah, I have seen that.
Should I ask? Or?
What kind of sauces have you been experimenting with?
Well, no, actually, I've seen
right.
I've seen it in Getty Images photo library.
Sorry. How about this? Okay, on the one hand, I have a split personality thing on the split personality reaction to this. Dave, on the one hand, I look at this and I say, you know what? This is how it's supposed to work. This is our system. This is capitalism at work. Somebody somewhere took 50 grosha worth of waffle batter and turned it into 20 zlotys, right? This is how our system is supposed to work. And even if you don't like it, there's somebody out there who's willing to pay for it. This is
seeing a mirror of these hyped up conservative baker cases.
No,
no.
This is wait. Let me finish. Let me finish my point.
To raise a dick and dough.
Let me finish my point.
I agree.
This is why we have professional wrestling and monster trucks and unicorn-shaped iPhone holders covered in glitters. Because even though you might think it's stupid, somebody somewhere wants to buy it. This is how the system works. And so I say, good for you. You thought you have a good idea. People are lining up to buy your hilariously overpriced waffles. Well done. Okay.
I have a question, actually.
There's a book coming, I think.
Is it,
number 3.
If you get a hero and a shiro, are you able to make them conjoin?
If you wish, Josh. I'm sure by heating both products, a little patience and creativity one could achieve.
I know what you're doing later, Josh.
Some kind of
On the other hand, I have to. We need some music for this, Josh. If like the sound of Grandpa John approaching, Grandpa John and his cranky, you damn kids today reaction. Because on the other hand, I look at this and I say this has to be a sign of late Roman.
You're not getting any music for
late
this.
Roman decadence. We are teetering on the edge of barbarism when this is the kind of thing that goes mainstream.
We're teetering on the edge. I think we fell off.
We did fall off a long time ago. It's true.
Romans celebrated penis-like symbols all through the reign, even before.
That's a good point. Actually, that's true.
Over the board with the.
That's true. Okay, there's another angle I want to discuss. The sexual politics, that's not the right term, but anyway, this is what I mean. Josh, let's say, for argument's sake, you decide to go across the street and grab one of them, whatever. Are you going to walk down the street with a cock on a stick in your mouth? Little bit gay. Sorry, can I say that in 2022? A little bit gay.
I don't know, and I don't
On the other hand, are you going to walk down the street with a vulva on a stick in your mouth? Which one looks worse? And how are you supposed to, how am I supposed to take you seriously?
Well, once you take a bite at a vulva, I don't think it's apparent what type of pastry you're eating.
But if you're a guy, what are you supposed to eat? If you're a girl, which one are you supposed to choose? What would you think of a girl who was happily walking down the street munching on a waffle cock?
Much more importantly, John, did you order one? How did they taste?
No, I didn't order one. Because, in fact, there were about 15, 20 people waiting in line when I went in there.
Yeah. Well, you see, this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, like you think good lud is one thing. This is an even better.
Don't get me started on good lud.
Lud.
Dave, would you walk down the street with a cock and or vulva on a stick?
No, I don't get this. Anyway, if I was eating a baked good like that, I'd sit down and have a coffee with it. But
yeah.
But would you mind being seen eating a cock?
Dip it in my coffee.
Would you mind?
Stroke the shaft. And then I luxuriate upon it for a while.
It's like
devouring a hole.
One more thing.
I was sitting there balls deep in my coffee.
What I do in public? If someone bought me one, yeah, sure, why not?
So you wouldn't mind being photographed eating
I think
a waffle cock?
I think the shop's ridiculous. Jesus, it's such a gimmick.
Last thing to go back to what you mentioned earlier, Dave, about selfies. While I was standing there looking at it,
Instagram shop. That's what it is.
Almost, not every single one, but almost every single person I saw leave there had the waffle in one hand and their phone in the other. The entire purpose of this thing is to get your selfie and move on. That's why I see this being very successful in the short term, but it's not going to be there in a year. I mean, after everybody who's going to go is going to go in the next few weeks, and then what happens?
Well, I think if the owner is smart, he expands very, very rapidly.
Into what?
Like into all the other places in the rest of the world.
No, I thought you meant
and
like,
then does an
like
IPO.
menu-wise, how do you expand?
Interrupts me, and then he kind of then he announces his IPO. He sells out the entire company for an enormous fortune, like what people pay for Starbucks or whatever. He retires happily to the Bahamas, and the business goes down the tubes because
That's what happens.
The novelty is worn off.
Well, look out for the chocolate filled arse.
Well, Jesus. Why do you think they chose Dickory instead of, they could have gone the other way?
Name. You got to give them that. That's a good name.
Well, because the female alternative is even more offensive.
I have a question for Josh.
What would that be?
Well, it's very similar to another word for nation.
You don't have to go that far. We could back up.
I forgot how hard you were to understand.
The country.
Yeah, I have a question. When you were saying earlier, there's another spelling of Dickory, but I only ever know that word in the context.
Yeah,
of
what does that mean? Is it just a rhyming thing?
Up the clock. Is the word Dickory with an O an actual word?
I think it's like shithousery, isn't it? It's one of those sort of, kind of made up words.
Abracadabra.
Well, that'd be Dickory with an A.
Abracadabra is a real Persian word.
Oh, here we go. Sorry, let me back up. Let me just close that off. I don't want to go.
Anyway, okay. I like the word. It's almost
Dickory,
Joycean,
but it's just it's just about the one menu item and not both. But anyway, okay.
Yeah, it's a bit gendered. You're right.
It is. It's discriminatory.
I think it's clearly gendered. I think that's. But if they did an asshole, that could be.
Oh God,
that's the only thing that gives me hope for these owners. I think they know this. No, it's a funny name. It's a funny name. I think they're in on the joke, and I think they just want to sell some baked goods.
They should be selling T-shirts.
I wonder if they taste any good. Are they tasty dicks? I
think if
18, 20 zlotys, go find out.
20 zloty a dick.
I've mentioned like 4 times already. They cost 20 zlotys.
Better be a big one.
Tasty one.
I think a pert breast. Would be appealing.
Let's get into tits and ass. Yes, I'm all for that.
We're no better than them.
All right,
we're not. We're loving it.
All right, now that we have the Beavis and Butthead section of our show done, let's move on to other things. Oh, we got to talk about serious stuff now.
Everyone.
Krakow Plaza / Galeria Plaza / whatever it's called last week has long been a topic of conversation on our show because
much hilarity.
Because of the drama it's gone through. We're talking about what was Krakow's first indoor shopping center, Dave, right? Not shopping mall, shopping center on Alejo Pokoju. But it quickly struggled as various competitors were set up all over the city and almost immediately ran into financial trouble, went into foreclosure, changed hands a couple of times, reinvented itself sort of, but not really quite recently as a resource center for Ukrainian refugees. They set up a place where the Ukrainians could go and take clothes and whatnot. Anyway, we finally learned this week that it is dead, like officially dead. They're going to raze it to the ground and just start over. They're going to knock it all down and build something else.
And isn't it owned by Strabag? Like, they're one of the biggest real estate developers.
Yeah, they're one of the deep pockets. It'll almost certainly be apartments. What else are they going to build there? It's a prime location. It's good real estate. It's just Krakow Plaza. It was always missing something. It was unlucky in the bigger picture as well. And in a way, it kind of gives us closure to see it come to this kind of final ending.
It was the arcade. Anytime you put arcade machines in a building, it instantly cheapens it. Even though I love video games, there's something about them.
It had the best bowling alley around, didn't it?
Yeah, but there's something about putting an arcade bowling alley in a shopping centre. I don't know. It never works.
Cheapens it?
Never works. Somehow it just never works. It's like the kiss of death or something. It's like having a Wendy's.
It was sad in the last... A Wendy's?
I was reaching for like a kind of obscure fast food brand. I think
Wendy's.
I did okay on the.
I love Wendy's.
Josh laughed and everything.
Don't shit on Wendy's.
I
love Wendy's.
Yeah, Wendy's are great.
Okay, anyway, let's move on. So anyway, it was sad about the last 2 years, the only thing left there was the Cinema City and the Carrefour downstairs, and it was just like a ghost town. What do you think is going to happen with Cinema City? The word is they're going to relocate the IMAX, which was there in Plaza. They want to keep an IMAX in Krakow. It either goes to Bonarka or it goes to Zakopianka, I think. Do we have a preference there? Does it matter? Because everybody loves IMAX, right?
They're both a bit awkward for me, so I don't think I could be arsed taking the extra.
I don't think there's room in Galeria Kazimierz for IMAX, no? Unless they remodeled something.
No chance. I have to say, when we went to see Top Gun, I was thinking that would have been definitely a good movie to go and see in the IMAX. But so it'd be good to have one option in the city. Bonarka, I suppose. It's the biggest facility. It's got the most room. Why not?
Could they repurpose anything at the Cinema City at Galeria Kazimierz? They need a lot of space for IMAX.
Height is the thing.
They'd have to give up 2 or 3 of the cinemas now.
Believe it or not, as much as I love to talk shit and pretend I know everything, you're slightly out of the range of my architectural knowledge.
Oh, really? Okay, I'm sorry. Go back to school, Dave. Learn something about the architectural details of that place.
The thing with IMAX is that it's not just width; you need height as well.
Oh, of course.
I'm going to say, right,
size matters.
Yes, you could. If you really, really wanted to, these guys can do anything, but it'd probably be too expensive. To repurposing buildings is difficult, right?
Do you remember the last time you were in Galeria Plaza, Galeria Krakow, whatever it was called?
Oh, it was surely to bowl. That was the only reason I ever went there, was to either meet someone who was bowling and to bowl myself. The pool tables were never that good quality, so I never really went there for that reason. And it has an arcade as well, which I liked playing with Charlie, like the motorbikes.
Josh, any fond memories of this place?
I think the only time I can remember going there was with you guys to see a film.
Yeah, I went to the IMAX with you a few times.
I can't remember which film it was.
Must not have been very good.
It's a bit of it just got out-competitioned, whatever. Out-competed, yeah.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Shut up, Dave.
Drop the hammer on whatever you were saying, Dave.
Welcome back. I like the discipline.
Let's go national here. Everybody's favorite Donald. That's Donald Tusk, obviously. He comes out this week and he says, of course, he's the head of Platform Obywatelska. He's the boss of the party. And
he's the evil opposite of Kaczynski, isn't he?
He says that in the next round of national elections, that anybody standing for office under the banner of PO must be supportive of liberalizing the abortion laws in Poland. If they're not in support of it, then they simply cannot run for office. Sounds like a pretty major rule to throw at everybody in the party, Dave. PO still has a significant number of people active in the party and their supporters who are, maybe not for super strict provisions for abortion, but they're kind of, they're not happy about having to vote for pro-abortion candidates. What do you make of this?
At the same time, it was kind of piss I got off the pot on this issue. Tusk was under a lot of pressure for a couple of reasons. First, there's that perception that he is the old guard. He could have done something about this back in the day, and he didn't when he was in power. So he is that going against him. And there's also, frankly, the fact that I think a referendum would be better, by the way. I don't know why he's against the referendum. That's something I'm curious to get your take on. But how often
he's afraid he'll lose it.
Yeah. In favour of that. And basically, I want to see, where it goes from here. But, yeah.
Josh?
I think, a referendum is not going to happen because, the public don't do what the public should too often in referendums.
What if you gave 3 options, the 12-week option, the status quo, and going back to the rules before the latest, ruling by the Constitutional Tribunal? That would be enough of a split in the vote with 3 options where you'd be very much on the edge of...
And then you'd have a runoff.
Well, no, the most popular option wins by vote. You have 3 options in a referendum.
It
doesn't have to be.
I like the idea, the principle of this is where we are. Like you said, clarifying things. Let the chips fall where they may. This is our. This is the position of our party. Take it or leave it. I like that. I respect the fact that he's not kind of hiding in the weeds and saying, well, maybe this side, maybe that side. I respect it. At the same time, though. Isn't politics all about building coalitions, compromise, consensus, reaching out, and kind of living in that gray area that doesn't really give you, definite promises to do this or that.
Well, he's been pained in the last day to make it clear that any coalition partners would not be expected to mirror this policy, which leads to the question, if that coalition got into power, could they pass the legislation anyway with a narrow majority, which is why I favour a referendum. I think it's time for a referendum on this topic.
Well, I think it's one of these things that, it's also what's the detail in the legislation, because I mean, as your country, John, is discovering since that kind of lamentable, Roe v. Wade thing has been overturned. And I think whatever side of the debate you're on, the fact that the Democrats were relying on that Supreme Court decision for so long as a substitute for clear legislation,
taking a stand on it, yeah.
And I think the issue which tends to get overlooked by the embedded factions on both sides of the abortion debate is that there is obviously there's the fundamental issue which some people have a strong opinion on, but the majority of people, I think, are of the view, well, it's not a terribly good thing, but there are certainly circumstances where it's the lesser of possible evils, and the question is, where do we define where it's acceptable and under what circumstances? And that'll be a period of time. Before this period of time, it's okay. After this, no. If there's, evidence of severe birth defects or this, or a threat to the health of the mother, or, these issues are constantly being discussed. And if you have whoever is in charge of government in whatever country and they want to introduce legislation, then the legislation that most closely fits with the broadest support from the greatest number of either representatives in government or the people will be the one that gets through. And so it's often a case of, people in this country are upset with the status quo as enforced by peace because they see that as being far too limited in terms of access to abortion.
But here's the problem, Josh, and you frame it as a political thing, and there's a political process to decide this, and this is how democracies work, and majority vote, and all the rest of it. And of course, you're right. However, at the same time, we've seen before on an episode we did a long time ago. Actually, I did it myself because it was I was talking to people online. We interviewed one activist from each side of the argument, and both of them made the same point. They said, "Look, we kind of don't support going through political channels because our point of view," again, each side has said the same thing, "this is not subject to the will of the majority. If you are a pro-abortion activist, you don't believe that your right to have an abortion can be nullified by 51% of the people. You believe it's almost like a human right. It's something higher." And the same thing with the people who are against abortion. If they feel that they're doing work that has a higher calling than, matters of men and politics. And so both sides kind of, they would love to see their point of view endorsed by the majority, certainly. But both sides at the end of the day are kind of like, okay, majority or not, we are still going to continue this fight. So,
not what he's saying. A vote would cause some utopia for everyone to go, no, actually, you're right.
Of course.
Obviously, people would hold on to that point of view, and they'd still be allowed protests. It's a bit what would the law be. But just to go back to the political strategy, not to get into too much of a back and forth on the rights and wrongs of the different policies in Polish abortion. I think Tusk is also trying to get this cleanly dealt with well in front of the election. So the position is clear. And of course, he also was at the Belinsky textile plant. And here you form the other part of the strategy, which is the attack on Peace's economic policies. What are you doing to support people? What are you doing to plan for the energy crisis? The lights are being shut off from a war this winter. What's your plan? Who are you helping? How are you going to stop price gouging by energy companies? The attack points on this government now are endless. They've been in power for ages. All of these policies, there's no one else, you know what I mean? They can't play that game that you can at your first election where you can, say we're still cleaning up the mess from before. People are going to have a lot of different...
They have a record.
Yeah. Point. Don't know why I said point.
I don't know. Point taken? Point for Dave? I don't know. What?
I don't know. I think I was finished and it just kind of popped out. Okay. I don't know why.
Maybe you should be a tennis umpire.
Yeah, I'm not used to. I have to get my groove back on.
One more thing on the lighter side. Anything is lighter than abortion, isn't it? Before we wrap
the riff on it.
Too much hearty laughter.
Before we wrap stuff here, This is one of the it's anecdotal, but this is the kind of thing that I like because I like to throw questions out at Josh and Dave. One of the local newspapers here in Krakow, they conducted one of these, what would you call it, investigations, I guess, to settle an ongoing debate about supermarkets and their prices. And, various supermarkets kind of position themselves as, the budget-friendly alternative, and we're looking after your pocketbook, and this is where you save money. And not surprising, I guess, Dave. Nobody promotes themselves as the expensive place, do they?
People take up your wallet and fillet it.
Although if your offering is you need to buy 68 metric tons of this to get the discount, American style, bring your own forklift,
17 gallons of mayonnaise
inside your truck to transport these goods, I'm not really interested. But,
so before we get to the specifics of the results, just generally speaking, Dave, when we all have our favorites, we all have the convenient places where we go across the street. But would you go out of your way, Dave? Would you go out of your way to save, 5-10% on your grocery bill? Or would you just go across the street and say to hell with it, this is easy?
Option B.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. I think a lot of people are the same. Josh?
Well, of course, I'm famously mean. So, as much as possible, I for my bigger grocery shops, I go to the, Biedronka, or if there was a Lidl nearby, to Lidl, because they are cheaper. However, there are some things that I can only get in the big Carrefour, either in Galeria Krakowska or Galeria Kazimierz, so I have a little, list of those kind of items, and on a less frequent basis I go to those places.
You're really good at this stuff, you're like the king of the household.
I am, yeah. Home economics was
very impressive. Just so you know, listeners, Josh cooks for himself pretty much every day. He has a plan, he sticks to it, he always looks like he's enjoying his dinner whenever I pop around. I think this is because you have to, feed your extensive guitar addiction. What have you got, 7 other things you're always ordering? Pickups and pedals.
Look at all this stuff sitting around here. What does this stuff even do? I know.
Yeah.
What's this?
It's
this little orange box with twiddly knobs.
It's an amp simulator.
He starved himself for 3 weeks to buy that.
It's got classic kind of 60s American typeface here, which
it's basically
sound.
It's emulating a Fender Twin Reverb amp, but you just plug into that, and then you can plug directly into a PA system, and it sounds like you're playing through a.
Look at you. You've been on Thoman again. That's like Pornhub to you, Thoman.de, isn't it?
Well, it is, yeah.
Let me finish this point. Can I finish this point about shopping?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I'm going to make a point about Carrefour, actually, which I do think is interesting, because in addition to the big Carrefours in the two gallerias that I mentioned, directly opposite Krakow's world headquarters, there's a fairly big 24-hour Carrefour just around the corner in Krakowska. There's another
Carrefour Express. Right?
Yeah, and then there's another one in Krakowska, and there's also one on the corner of Miodowa and Bożego Ciała. So all within very short walking distance of our global media empire.
Right.
What is fascinating...
Thank you for triangulating the options so accurately.
I think...
Fucking gammon over here.
Apart from cigarettes, which are kind of price regulated anyway, I can guarantee that you will never see the same price for the same item in any of those stores. Carrefour literally have carte blanche. You see what I did there with that French kind of...
Frenchy stuff.
Almost like they're at a crossroads.
No?
Yeah.
Anybody?
I'm not gonna rise to debate that one for pour encourager les autres.
Oh, don't even. Okay, so let me back up. When you go to Żabka, for example, Dave, you kind of know you're getting ripped off a little bit, but it's also convenient. You can get what you need fast. But at the same time, doesn't Żabka, with their 2-for-1s, you remember, not 2-for-1s, but if you buy 2, you get a discounted price on...
I'm getting such deja vu. As I think I've said on the show many times, Żabka's pricing has gotten a lot better over the last few years. And if you know what you're buying per unit, quite often it's cheaper than
can
Carrefour.
be. Also, if you want
to buy 3 of them.
If you've got the Żabka on your phone...
Can I be a complete walking cliche? Cheapest place you get Guinness in Krakow is Żabka. If you buy 4 of them, you get a $6.20 a can. It's usually $7.99 in a major supermarket.
Very reasonable price.
Okay, so anyway, we back up to this local media outlet. They took a list of 50 items and they went to these 13 different supermarkets and we're including Żabka as a supermarket for these purposes, and bought the same things and compared the prices. Now, the most expensive place, no surprise, was Żabka. Those 50 items cost 456 zlotys.
Yeah, stuff like butter and staples is really
and non-food
expensive.
items like your toiletries and stuff like that, you're going to get ripped off.
But I find what I shop for a lot is, say, things like
Guineas,
sweets and alcohol and beer and soft drinks, and it's pretty much in line. Actually, soft drinks are very expensive. Continue.
So anyway, Żabka, by far the most expensive. I'll skip the other like 12 or 13 places on the list and go right to number one. Who do you think the cheap, same 50 items at 322 zlotys as opposed to Żabka's 456? Same 50 items, 322 zlotys. Where?
All Poland or all Malpolski?
Well, this is Krakow thing. So
Lidl.
Nope.
I know a lot of people would say Biedronka, but I know there's another one that everyone raves about being real cheap, like Kaufman or something.
Kaufland?
Kaufland.
Okay.
I'm going with Kaufland.
Now, in fairness, the top 3 or 4 are not separated by too much, and Lidl's in the top 4. But number 1 was Biedronka. So Biedronka has the right to claim the position as low price leader. That's kind of consistent with my experience.
Good thing I dropped it into my answer.
You did.
I did that quiz wanker
Well
thing where I kind of include 2 guesses in case I'm wrong. You
Just
know,
to make yourself look good.
yeah,
Huh?
exactly. Yeah.
So,
Doesn't work.
Josh, this is
work. No, you don't get a
consistent with
point
your
for that.
experience that Biedronka, you can trust them on the price thing.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm afraid, as like kind of Dave was politely alluding to earlier, I'm a little bit of a train spotter when it comes to kind of prices per kilo of
He's good.
regular goods, and it's like, but I do need potatoes, so I'll put up with paying an extra 49 groszy per kilo.
Plus, you've an excellent nose for a good cheap bottle of wine. So,
Let me go back to Carrefour. Josh, you're right about the pricing is so inconsistent. But Dave, okay, so we don't want to betray Dave's exact location because we don't want too many women to be pounding on the door to his apartment.
and the teams of international assassins who haunt my days.
He lives extremely close to Galeria Kazimierz, like super close. So that is your default place, and the Carrefour inside there is your default supermarket. I find Carrefour to be overpriced myself.
Oh, that's an overpriced supermarket, and I'm well aware of it. But generally speaking, Mrs. McGinley does the shopping as I work in the office, and she'd be at home most of the time. So it's up to her, and I know she considers the difference not enough for our weekly shop to be bothered going to Biedronka, because I think it depends what you buy. Like, Josh is a great man for for cooking from scratch every day, whereas we would maybe half the week, the other time make our own food, so.
Well, there's also, because the nearest Biedronka is the same one that's near for me, isn't it? Which is presumably just off Starowiczna, which is, it's a lot more of a step. Or you get a taxi if you don't have a car, and then that's an expense. But it's a time expense as well.
And it's a long way to walk with the bags. I mean, she's got,
But Biedronka has no pretenses about being anything other than a warehouse-style place. It's bare bones. It's nice enough, but it's basic. This Carrefour by you, Dave, is actually quite nice inside.
That's a good supermarket.
Has a nice product selection. I think they try to be a little bit premium, not expensive, but little step
Well,
up.
also because it was stepping into the shoes of Alma, which really was,
That's true.
that was an expensive but very good quality supermarket.
Yeah, they had to kind of go for it. It is a branded Carrefour, like it's supposed to be their nicer one. I forget what they call it, even though I'm there.
Well, the numbers speak for themselves. Biedronka is the low price leader by what did I say, about 130 zlotys over Żabka.
But I like but Carrefour has the things I want as well, like Irish cheddar and the different international products. So I would be going to buy those things anyway, and their prices on those are pretty good.
Have you started eating any of Żabka's ready to eat meals?
Where's Auchan on your list? Because I always thought that was really cheap.
Auchan was in the top. It was somewhere between 5 and 7. I think I don't have it in front of me.
There's a
But
massive selection as well.
yeah, but do you eat those little microwave-friendly things from Żabka now? This is like a growing segment I'm curious about.
Żabka's ready meals are generally very, very poor. I don't like to admit to occasionally, having a lazy moment.
I've tried them too, and they're not very good. They're not cheap either. Sometimes.
No, they're not, and they really the things like the spaghetti bolognese or the chili con carne. It's like there's really just not much in them.
No, if I'm going for a quick meal, it's like a well-made sandwich, So you'll find in my...
The Żabka sandwiches are okay, I think.
Yeah, I'll eat one of them on the run, but not at home.
I'll take those 9 zloty microwavable pierogi as well in a pinch. Those are okay. But anything with sauces and complex
No,
stuff.
I wouldn't be trusting like a chicken cutlet.
Since they refurbished the Biedronka just off Starowiczna, they've introduced a range of kind of like Polish style microwave meals like
I've totally gone down the rabbit hole. What were we talking about?
Kotlets,
before?
I think that's going to be a big growth
and
sector here. Is the ready to eat, throw it in the microwave, and serve maybe a family of because like you see in a British supermarket, they have tons of this stuff, and here not so much.
And I think it's interesting because I mean the ones that Biedronka does are priced at $9.99, 10 zloty, let's say. I think Carrefour offer a very similar range, which you can also find in Spars. Essentially the same menu but different packaging, probably made by the same people, and they're about 12 to 14 zloty.
Right, we're starting to sound like some weird.
I know we're going to weird. But let Josh finish his point.
Okay,
here,
but
and then I'll wrap it up.
Okay, but this is like we've all been here several years now. We're familiar with the idea of restaurants or the old Milk Bars Bar Mleczny doing their kind of like lunch menu where you pay. I have no idea what it is now, but I always think of between 10 and 15 zloty, and you have like a main course, maybe a soup.
Oh, those days are over, my friend.
A glass of compote, and I suspect that the price of these ready meals has to be cheaper than the presumably rapidly increasing price of going to your little cafe restaurant round the corner and getting your pierogi and juice for.
Since we're gone full extended supermarket, let me just pick up on one thing which really interests me, which we were talking about the rise of the ready meal and it being a big growth market. When I go back to Ireland, I'm astonished by the quality of the local supermarket ready meals. Like, they're just vacuum packed. There's no this is shit that's been mulched with 50 different animals and you know what I mean? Like it's individual pack. It's roast
stuff,
beef, it's mashed potatoes, it's veg, it's roast potatoes, it's Yorkshire pudding, it's gravy, and you heat it all up and it tastes as close to a roast dinner, and you're kind of going, that wasn't bad for £4,
I'm suddenly reminded. This is like many, many, many years ago. This was a friend of my dad's telling. I think it would have been probably about the time that I first moved to Poland, so 16 years ago. And he was telling about his business trips to Russia when it was in the Soviet Union in the 1970s, and how when they were being treated to a night out in a restaurant. And you would have. He goes like, "Well, what does this translate as?" And he goes like, "Oh, that's forced meat." And he goes, "What is forced meat?" And he said, "Well, it's well, actually, we know it as kind of like mechanically recovered meat. It's like after the stuff has been carved off, you put the bones and everything and the gristle and tendons, through some kind of shredder that has, just extracts the few morsels of protein available and makes a sort of a kind of a gooey paste out of it,
Listen, I will whip down many, bird's eye frozen nonsense when I was a kid. But there's no doubt about it. When you have a chicken nugget that's made out of, fresh chicken fillet, it tastes an awful lot better.
Who knows? Maybe
there's a reason Mackie D's don't do it anymore.
What if Żabka got into the frozen cock waffle business? Maybe the Dickory is opening up a whole new market we never saw coming.
Well, I think we've actually got a fair claim to being first on the market when it comes to cock waffle.
Absolutely.
The Irish band's just going to be called Drippin' Mickey's.
On that note, we are going to mercifully bring things to a close. Thanks for joining us. Of course, for the news, KrakCast.pl is the site. Once again, welcome back to Dave. Please direct your fan mail to, I don't know, Josh, help me here.
What, you mean you're going to give out his email address and...
You're basically encouraging your sister to write to me.
All right, guys. Anyway, Dave, welcome back, and thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll catch you next time on the KrakCast.